Greetings, anime enjoyers, and despite being called the Otaku Bandito, I have not once reviewed a single anime, but that's about to change, yeah. I have reviewed anime games, but no anime series or movies yet. But for my 1000th video, yep, that's thanks in part to Jaden mentioning me about it, I decided to take a look at the grandfather of all mainstream animes in the West. That means the Western market, like North America and Europe and whatnot. And it's not Dragon Ball Z, nor is it Sailor Moon, nor is it Pokemon. It's Speed Racer! Yep, originally known as Mach GoGoGo. Speed Racer was the first anime to be released to mainstream audiences in the West, and it was back in 1967. Wow. So long ago, am I right? So yeah, Speed Racer is known for the dub, which isn't that great, but you have to cut them some slack. This was the early days of anime, and they haven't perfected the art of English dubbing yet. Although Speed Racer was very popular. Yeah, it was originally known as Mach GoGoGo in Japan, but I like Speed Racer better. It just sounds better to me. And this is one instance where I actually prefer the Western title over its original Japanese title because it just sounds so much better. So yeah, Speed Racer needs no introduction as a lot of people know about it, and the Mach 5 is one of the most iconic cars to ever appear in fiction, and it's the car that a lot of people want alongside the Batmobile and the DeLorean time machine. I mean, come on, who doesn't want a car that can travel through time? But anyways, the episode that I decided to review is The Car Destroyer, aka one of the more highly rated episodes of Speed Racer. And the plot is really simple. It's basically about a mad scientist who hates cars because of some conspiracy theory about his son being paralyzed from a hit and run, and he's hell-bent on destroying every car and melting them down to make an army of robotic animals in the forest. Yep, that's his evil plan. Destroy every car and make a forest of robotic animals. So yeah, The Car Destroyer better be good because it is one of the more highly rated Speed Racer episodes according to IMDb. And the title sounds cool as well, The Car Destroyer. Yeah, it sounds like a villain that would actually appear in Speed Racer, someone who actually is the opposite of what Speed Racer is all about. So yeah, let's strap ourselves in and take a look at The Car Destroyer. And if you're wondering why I'm reviewing each episode separately, it's because just like The Loud House and Simpsons, each episode can vary depending on how it's good or bad. That's why I didn't review the whole episode together, because you have to review every episode separately. But anyways, let's strap in. After we get the iconic intro, which needs no introduction, the episode begins with a race that's about to start, and Speed decides not to enter, which Trixie makes a point about it being unusual for Speed Racer. And yes, that's his name, by the way, not taking part in the race. Yeah, Speed Racer is the character's name if you haven't known already. Which is ironic considering that the show is called Speed Racer. Yeah, that's his name, I'm not making it up. So get used to it. So he decided to watch the race in the grandstands instead. Speed mentions that watching the race is a great opportunity for him to watch the other drivers. The race then goes underway, and we get a Le Mans-style running start, where the drivers have to run to their cars and then get in them. But wait! Something's not right! The cars are driving on their own! Oh no! This must be the work of some evil mastermind. I can tell that something is not right here. After the race cars leave the track, it is revealed that a mad scientist who is standing by a tree is controlling them. Oh no, this is not good. They then go over to the mad scientist's castle, whose name is revealed to be Dr. J.D. Crepit, by the way. It then cuts to the city, where chaos ensues. An ambulance is seen driving to the scene where two cars have crashed into each other. Crepit is then seen driving in his gray sedan to the scene. The ambulance leaves as there were no people in the cars themselves. Two unnamed people then call for a taxi, as they have plans to go to the theater. But it turns out that the taxi has no driver too! Oh no! The taxi drives off, and we see that several cars are also driving by without any drivers. Crepit drives into the parking garage and deploys several smaller toy cars. It turns out that this is the reason why all of the cars are being controlled on their own. The police then pursue the driverless taxicab, which is driving by pretty fast. Meanwhile, Crepit presses the button on his speedometer, and the cars that were in the parking garage start driving off. An unnamed employee tries warning them that they cannot leave without paying first, but soon realizes that the cars have no drivers. Yeah, you can't warn the cars that have no drivers because there's no people inside them. It's not going to do you any good. But anyways, the police keep pursuing the taxicab until they lose control and end up wrecking their car. At the Metropolitan Police Headquarters, the chief was talking to someone on the phone about the cars driving away from the parking garage, and he thinks that the caller is crazy. Someone else then calls them about the policemen that got involved in the crash that happened earlier. He believes that Speed Racer himself might be the one to get to the bottom of all these crimes. We then cut to Speed Racer himself driving in the Mach 5. Trixie is worried about the disappearing cars as there might not be any cars left on the road. Thus, Speed Racer has to find out who is actually behind this scheme, and he starts doing some detective work. Spritle and Chim Chim are seen sitting inside of a vintage truck, and after the truck stops by a tree, they decide to hide inside the truck to watch the events unfold. While Speed and Trixie are seen driving alongside the road, another car shows up and starts driving by. This car also happens to be driverless. Speed chases the driverless car and it's doing everything it can to block his path. He even tries losing control, but thankfully he saves his car and the chase continues. Good for you, man. It's always good to see that the main hero has survived. Just like he should, because there's a rule in fiction. Main characters cannot die. The car then zooms past the locomotive, which forces Speed Racer to stop and turn around as he has to jump through the train with the Mach 5. Yeah, it's a good thing that the Mach 5 has all of those gadgets. It can do almost anything, which is really cool. It's why the Mach 5 is so iconic and why almost everyone on the Earth wants one. But it might be too late as the car had already disappeared. He then stops by Crepit and asks him if he saw a strange car without a driver. He turns out to be no help whatsoever, as he does what all sneaky villains usually do: feed him lies and leave. Yeah, typical. This raises Speed's eyebrows as he believes that that person is Dr. Crepit, and Trixie asks him what he's doing in the middle of the country. Speed then explains that Crepit retired as a car engineer a few years ago and then lives inside a castle. Crepit then gets an idea to steal the Mach 5. Oh no, not the Mach 5! Oh, the humanity. You don't steal Speed Racer's iconic car, you don't do that, man. And you're gonna see later of why you don't do that. Meanwhile, Chim Chim and Spritle are still hiding inside the truck, and they find out that no one is driving the truck itself. After Speed gave up his search on finding the green driverless car, Trixie convinces him to catch up to the driverless truck, which he does. After Spritle and Chim Chim get tossed out of the truck, they fall out of the truck, because the truck has paid attention to their presence, because, well, it's a freaking inanimate object. What else is it going to do? Speed comes to rescue them. And then Spritle and Chim Chim enter the trunk as they always do. But he still continues to chase the driverless truck, which is headed for the castle. They then see some other vehicles exit the castle and move near the forest. Speed dodges the wrecking ball, and the vehicles continue to chase him for the forest itself. He then deploys the buzzsaws, which cut down the trees so he wouldn't crash into them. The construction vehicles then drive off into a cliff and explode. Yep, that's what they do when they lose control. But oh no! The Mach 5 is starting to drive on its own, and it turns out that Crepit just deployed one of his toy cars under it! Oh no, it's just still the Mach 5, you don't do that. The Mach 5 then drives into the castle. It is revealed that the cars get melted down and Speed himself sees the toy's car, but there's one problem though. He can't reach down to get it off, so Spritle and Chim Chim come to the rescue. Chim Chim tries his best to reach down and get the toy car off the Mach 5. Just when all hope is lost, Chim Chim saves Speed Racer and Trixie from their imminent death as the lava, or molten metal, as it appears to be, would have melted them while they were inside the Mach 5, and he turns around and starts escaping from the castle. Yeah, if you were wondering why there's a monkey in the show itself, well, it's because monkeys and chimpanzees were seen as one of the hottest trends of the 1960s. Back in the 60s, everyone wanted to have a monkey or a chimp. Yeah, I know chimps are technically apes, not monkeys, but most people usually refer to them as monkeys because they're basically primates. Even Clint Eastwood himself had one. It's kind of like today where every fashionista has a chihuahua in their purse. Yeah, I know, Chim Chim is a chimpanzee, not a monkey. Big difference. Before you go into the comments, I know that Chim Chim is a chimp, not a monkey. And I know that chimpanzees are different from monkeys because they have no tail and they're apes. So you don't have to educate me on that because I already know this. I know that monkeys and apes are different animals because they're different species of primates. Just like how us humans are different from monkeys and apes, but we're still primates. But anyways, Speed finds it strange that there are flowers in a creepy forest, but as he tries cutting down the trees, Spritle hops out of the trunk to investigate, and he soon finds out that they aren't real. Yeah, they're made of metal. Trixie also finds out that the flowers are fake and made of metal too. Oh man, they're fakers. Once the gang gets out of the Mach 5 to look around, they find out that everything in the forest, including the animals, are all made of metal. To Spritle's discovery as he popped off the squirrel's head, which would never happen with a real squirrel. Chim Chim believes that something is up, which it is, and they even spot a fake Chim Chim, which is also hinted to be made of metal. After they look around some more, Trixie runs over to the castle, which turns out to be an entrance to an amusement park. When they enter the park, they find out that no one is here and are then greeted by archers, which might also be robots that fire arrows on them. Speed dodges one of the arrows, and Trixie warns him about a roller coaster that is about to run him over. A group of toy planes then start dive bombing on Speed Racer, and he catches one of them and starts swatting at them. After that, a holographic projection of Dr. Crepit that appears and warns Speed Racer that he knows too much about him. If he goes straight to the police, it can't be allowed. Yeah, that is a threat that if I ever saw one. Speed then asks him why he destroys cars. He then reveals that the metal from the cars is used to build his castle and wants to turn every car into what he calls objects of beauty, even though they're fakers. He also reveals that he hates cars, and the reason for this is because his own wife took her life in a car, and his son was crippled following a hit-and-run incident. Thus, he became bitter and started hating them. It's been his intent to get rid of every car, and after that backstory, he then fires a couple of toy missiles at Speed. 3 toy tanks show up and start firing pellets on Spritle, Chim Chim, and Speed Racer himself. Oh boy, how are they gonna get out of this one? Crepit is seen messing around with the controls, and then his own son is seen sneaking behind him. We also have a brief flashback scene of the driver that tried to run over Crepit's wife and his son as he wants revenge on those evil cars. Well, yeah, cars can cause pollution and they can be a hazard to pedestrians, but they're not much more evil than SUVs. Well, hybrid cars aren't evil and electric cars aren't evil unless we count all the materials like plastic being made of oil, yada yada yada, batteries being made of hazardous materials, yada yada yada. I don't want to get into this rabbit hole. I really don't. But this was before EVs and hybrids existed, so this was the 60s. So back then, we only had internal combustion cars, so yeah. His son tries to tell him to stop, only for him to be flung at the wall. Speed then finds out that Crepit is operating the toy cars and other toy vehicles from a nearby building while having to deal with more toy planes. One of them chases Chim Chim and another one chases Spritle. Speed then gets an idea and he runs over to the small train to crash into the wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah! I wish I could show you that clip, but I can't due to copyright reason. And once he enters the building, he tackles Dr. Crepit. The two start fighting. His son sees this and tells him to stop fighting. Crepit then gets thrown across the wall with Speed's legs while Trixie and the others quickly run inside the building to see what's going on. His son had enough of the fighting and told him no more, but Crepit still doesn't listen as he throws his own son's wheelchair at Speed even though his own son told him to put it down. As Speed grabs Crepit by the coat, it is revealed that his own son can walk on his two legs, meaning that he lied to him about being paralyzed all along. Now that is a shocker. Yeah, he basically lied to his son. You don't do that. You don't lie to your own children. That's bad parenting. He then went over to hug his own son, but Speed has told him that he was able to walk all along and that he kept him in the wheelchair this entire time as he was the one who lied to him about being paralyzed. And so, Crepit is arrested by the police after the truth had gotten out, but before he goes to jail, he tells his own son to take care of his own home while he's behind bars. Speed also promises to keep an eye on his son. After we get Crepit's heartfelt goodbye to his own son, he then enters the police car while his own son was seen crying, which is understandable as he'll miss him for a long time. Really long, because he'll be in prison for, I don't know, probably a really long time judging by the amounts of destruction and theft that he's caused. I would love to see Mouse do a if Speed Racer villains were charged for their crimes video, because I want to see how much jail time Dr. Crepit would serve. Speed then tells him to stop crying and tells him to make the castle and amusement park into a place where children and adults as well can have fun. He also tells him to get rid of the fake metal flowers and the fake metal trees and replace them with real ones, which is for the best. I mean, real trees and real flowers are probably better for the environment than metal ones. Because, well, it's nature. Trixie offers to help, as does Spritle and Chim Chim, and then the episode ends with more shots of the castle, and they're saying, don't miss the next exciting episode of Speed Racer. So yeah, a good ending. Yeah, and they all lived happily ever after, and even the son went out fine. He was fine. He wasn't paralyzed. He was just lied to by his own father, so yeah. Here's what I think about the episode. So yeah, in my opinion, the Car Destroyer is actually one of the better episodes of Speed Racer. Like I said, the dubbing isn't perfect, but for the 1960s, it's all we got. It's good enough, because in the 1960s, perfect English dubbing hadn't existed yet, so this is all we got. Yeah, so the episode is pretty action-packed, and Dr. Crepit is an interesting villain. Yeah, like, his motivation is different from any mad scientist character that I've seen who just wants to take over the world, because of course. His motivation is to basically rid the world of all cars and wheeled vehicles because he hates them for the hit-and-run incident that took his own wife's life and supposedly crippled his own son. But the twist is that, spoiler alert, even though this episode had been spoiled already, that he's actually doing fine and is able to stand up on his own. So yeah, his own son had been lied to, and Dr. Crepit is shown to care about his son, even though he should be put in jail for child endangerment because he basically lied to his own son and was forced to sit in a wheelchair for years. I mean, that's considered to be child endangerment, I'm sorry, but the episode's still pretty good. Yeah, and Dr. Crepit is the perfect villain for Speed Racer. He's like the opposite of what Speed Racer actually stands for. Cars and action. Yeah, so to have a villain hating cars and wanting to rid them is kind of appropriate for Speed Racer. Yeah, he is the great villain for Speed Racer, and has a similar motivation to another villain in the series, except the other villain doesn't want his own child to get into racing, and he hates cars for a different reason. But anyways, this episode gets an 8 out of 10. So yeah, Speed Racer is my first ever anime that I had to review, and it's very fitting, because it's one of the first mainstream, well, if not the first mainstream anime to ever exist in the West. It was very popular in the 1960s, but in 1969, it went off the air, unless you count reruns. Well, Speed Racer did have reruns just like any other show, mainly on the Speed Channel, but after 1969, there were no more English dubs of anime, and there were no anime series to come out in the West until 1978. And the 1980s was all about different companies trying to get anime to become popular in the West, whether if it's Robotech or Star Blazers. But we all know that anime didn't really start taking off in the mainstream until the 90s. So yeah, Speed Racer can be thanked for introducing the West to anime. It was originally called Mach GoGoGo in Japan, and the character was differently named, but Speed Racer sounds better. And like I said, it's ironic that the main character of the show is called Speed Racer. Yeah, so he shares his name with the show. But anyways, if you want me to review another Speed Racer episode, let me know. I'm open to suggestions. And I actually enjoyed reviewing my first anime, so I am truly the Otaku Bandito. It's not just the name anymore. I have finally reviewed my first anime, and I felt good about it. So all I have to say now to you guys is catch you guys next time, and peace out. And happy 1000th video, by the way. Peace.